Hey, I'm Ken Shelton, a singer-songwriter originally from Columbus, Mississippi. I'm not famous, probably never will be, but I'm okay with that. I've enjoyed the journey. I've met a lot of good friends, been around a lot of talent, and I'm grateful that Jesus has blessed me with the talent that he has. And I'm just one in a million songwriters, and each one's got their own story filled with ups and downs and bumps and bruises, and I'm just honored to get to share mine. This is going to be the Cliff Note version, so if you've got a few minutes, hope you'll hang around and take a listen. I'm 72 years old, and that makes me a baby boomer. My musical journey started in 1963 with a song and a group that no one had ever heard of that would change the music industry forever. The name of the song was Love Me Do. The name of the group was the Beatles, four young guys from Liverpool, England. After Love Me Do, they released Please Please Me, She Loves You, and those both went straight to the top. Capitol Records finally woke up and released I Want to Hold Your Hand in America, and Beatlemania was off and running. And with Beatlemania came what would later be known as garage bands. They sprung up everywhere. I can remember our first band was called The Illusions. We wore button-down shirts kind of like the Beach Boys, except ours were yellow with big blue polka dots. And I remember one day I decided we were going to wear, all of us wear them to school, and we got called to the principal's office and sent home. That's a true story. We played anywhere and everywhere anybody would listen. And we weren't anything to write home about, but we did the best we could. The 60s were, just awful as far as turmoil goes. The civil rights movement had begun in around 65. The Vietnam War had the country split in half. It was just worse than it was back with the Civil War. There were 3 assassinations: John Kennedy, his brother Robert, and Martin Luther King. This all set the backdrop of what would be known as folk music. Now, folk music was mostly protest music, but the group would have like a couple of guitars and maybe a banjo, and it produced acts like Bob Dylan, Joan Baez, Peter, Paul and Mary, Pete Seeger, some real good music. And this music, folk music, went on to evolve into, it was mostly acoustic. And when the Beatles started doing electric, and later on Bob Dylan did some electric, everybody just freaked out. But it evolved into my favorite genre, which was the singer-songwriter group. And this genre would produce most of my influences, my idols. It was James Taylor, Carole King, Dan Fogelberg, and I could go on and on and on and on. In the late 60s, a buddy of mine decided we would join the new movement known as the hippie movement, and we dropped out of college, which broke my mother's heart and really ticked my dad off. And we were going to bum around and see America. Well, that didn't last too long, because my buddy got his draft notice, and he, instead of going to Vietnam, he decided he would join the Navy. And me, I decided I was going to go to Muscle Shoals, Alabama, and make it big in the music business. Now, when I went to Muscle Shoals, when I got there, I didn't know anybody. I didn't know where anything was. So I had enough money to get a cheap motel, and I asked the desk clerk, where are the music studios? I've heard there are music studios. There's supposed to be music studios here. He said, oh yeah. He said, we've got two. He said, Fame, and he gave me the direction of Fame, and he said, that's owned by Rick Hall. And he said, then there's Quinby, which is just down the street, and that's owned by Quinn Ivy. So I figured, that's the closest, so I'd go there first, not knowing anything about either one of them. And I'll never forget, I walked in and told the secretary I'd like to see Mr. Ivy, and she took me to his office, and we sat down, and he said, what can I do for you? And I said, well, I'd really like to make it in the music business. I want to work in the music business. And he said, what can you do? And I said, well, nothing. He said, well, that's going to be kind of hard to work with. I said, well, anything will suit me fine. I'll sweep floors, whatever. He said, I'll tell you what, why don't I let you work with my chief engineer, David Johnson, and you can learn to be a sound engineer. And I thought, wow, that sounds great. And so sure enough, I started working with David, and it didn't take me but a couple of 3 weeks to realize that all those buttons and chords and whatever just weren't for me. So where do I go from here? Well, I met a guy, Quinn introduced me to a guy named Jerry Williams Jr. His stage name was Swamp Dog, quite an unusual character. And he took me under his wing, and it didn't take long to, before I realized that I had a little bit of talent as a pretty solid lyric writer. Well, while in Muscle Shoals, I met my first wife, Donna, and it wasn't long after that Jerry found me a job in Nashville. So Donna and I moved to Nashville, and I was working for Nashborough Record Company, which was an R&B company, in the daytimes, and at night I was working at Donaldson Bowl, giving people bowling shoes. Really exciting stuff, huh? Now, fate can be a harsh mistress, and I was just fixing to find out how harsh she could be. One decision was going to be made that probably changed my life forever. Let me skip ahead to August of 1993. 1973. That's when my son Jason was born. So here I was with 2 jobs, 1 old car, a brand new baby, and a wife that had cabin fever so bad she was just going stir crazy. So here's where fate stepped in. As I said earlier, Jerry took me under his arm, under his wing, and we wrote 2 songs together. The first one was called A New Day Never Comes, and it was recorded by a group of sisters known as the Green Sisters. They put that song on an album called Whatever, I think was the name of the album. And the other song we wrote was called Laid Back and Easy, and that turned out to be my life story. But anyway, we wrote Laid Back and Easy, and Jerry was producing an R&B act at the time named Freddie North. And Freddie was a pretty good guy, and he is a pretty good R&B singer. And so I got Laid Back and Easy put on an album, which is right over there. We talked, and Jerry said that he was going to release a song called She's All I Got for Freddie's first single. And She's All I Got later went on to be covered by Johnny Paycheck in the country genre, and it did real well. But he said, I don't know where, I want to put a song called You and Me Forever Together as the B-side. Now, for you young kids, this is a 45. And You can't carry the A side out of the store if you buy it without carrying the B side. So anyway, he said, I want to save Laid Back and Easy to be Freddie's second single. Now, at the time, I thought, well, I didn't know I liked She's All I Got, but I didn't know how well it was going to do. And so I didn't have the final say anyway. So that's what he did. Unfortunately for everybody involved, Freddie was a one-hit wonder. Laid Back and Easy was released. I think Laid Back and Easy was an awesome song. It just didn't fly, and Freddie, I think, nowadays is a preacher. The story's not all bad. Laid Back and Easy did get recorded by one other guy, and his name was Aubrey Wilson, and I don't know, he never even had a hit, period. But, you know, just to get your name on something is nice. Of course, back then, I was, you know, chasing a dream, and I wanted to make a lot of money. And I wrote a song when I was living in Nashville called Sunday Afternoon, and I entered it in the American Songwriters Contest. Well, having been published, I couldn't enter as an amateur. I had to enter as a professional. So you can only imagine the competition I was up against. Anyway, I made the finals, and I got beat out. Me and everybody else got beat out by Kim Carnes and her husband, Dave Ellingson. And the name of the song was Love Comes in the Most Unexpected Places. And it went on to be recorded by Barbra Streisand. So at least I got beat out by the best. It never crossed my mind when I was looking at Nashville in my rearview mirror that it would be 46 years before I would ever write another song. I was a little bit discouraged, and like I said, my wife had cabin fever, and I hate to say it, I just gave up, and we headed back to Mississippi. When I was watching the Nashville skyline disappear in my rearview mirror, it never occurred to me that it would be 46 years before I would even think about writing another song. I guess you could say life happened. Donna and I got divorced, and later on I married Punky, my wife now. In 1993, I took the hardest hit I've ever taken in my life when my 20-year-old son Jason was killed in a car wreck by a drunk driver. I turned into a melancholic. I was depressed a lot. And life can be tough sometimes. But it really affected my songwriting. You can see that in my lyrics, and if you listen to my songs, sometimes you can tell they come from way down deep. When I started back writing, most of my contacts were either dead or retired. You can just imagine how much the music business had changed in 46 years. I made a promise to myself when I did start back that I wasn't going to try to write like this guy or that guy or whatever. I was going to do my own thing. And only problem with that is my stuff didn't fit a genre. So you know what I did? I created my own genre, and I called it Ragamuffin music. Really neat thing about creating your own genre is whatever you write goes right to the #1 spot. You're a star in your own eyes. It's been a good ride for me in the music business. God has placed some tremendous talent in my path. I've made a lot of friends, had a lot of fun, a lot of good times. some bad times. And I believe in giving credit, and on all my albums, I've given credit to the vocalist and the musicians that have helped me. There's been two people that have been really instrumental in my life in recent years. The first one is Cyrus Gray with Hugs Radio. He gave me the courage to believe in myself and believe that I could be somebody. And the other one is the guy that's helped me with this video today, and his name is Ruskin Clay, and this guy can play anything with strings. Just an awesome talent, and he's turned out to be an awesome friend. He's taken me from audio to video. I can't begin to thank him enough. So that's going to pretty much wrap it up. I hope you'll go to my website and check out my music. It's got my testimony there. I'm a Christian, a ragamuffin Christian, I guess you'd say. But Jesus loves me, and he's been good to me, and I want to thank him for everything. Thank you. When all the gypsy stars and me finally make it home, when all the gypsy stars and me finally make it home,